Hi, everybody, and a happy Snowpark day. So my name's Steve Franks. I work for Dataiku as a solution architect. I'm going to take you through three things here today. One is, who are Dataiku? What do we do? The second is, how do we work with Snowflake? And then thirdly, I'll take you through a short demo showing you a small part of our platform around MLOps. So since I mentioned MLOps, I should probably dive into that first point. Who are Dataiku and what do we do? So we provide a data science platform for everyday AI that helps organizations systematize AI. So that's a touch of marketing jargon there. So let me see if I can break that down for you. So most companies typically have a few use cases, but they want to transform their business with AI. And quite often they'll have a clock running against that to get everybody using AI within the organization. Typically it's a 5-year window. And then much like how the internet became embedded in everything you do at your companies, AI can do the same. And it's true regardless of whether you're in R&D, logistics, finance, whatever your company does. But most organizations quickly realize that delivering value from AI at scale is actually really, really challenging. You typically have these conflicting tensions. So, you want to be able to provide for your kind of unicorn teams. You want to give them the latest tools and techniques, much like what we're here today to talk about, Snowpark. But you have to balance that against the business experts who want Excel and Tableau. Which do you do? You want to have your teams have the freedom to experiment, fail fast. But you need to balance that against IT needs for control and safety when getting into production. And also you need to find that balance between, how do you deliver your first successful project against that sustainable long-term initiative? So we often see companies making huge investments in the latest technologies, but without ever, enabling a single use case on them. Or maybe they invest, in a third party to deliver a quick win, but they never capitalize that in the long term. So what's the answer? Well, instead of focusing on one problem, say data prep or AutoML or MLOps or cloud strategy, et cetera, you should aspire to solve them all together. And to do this, you need a systematized approach to AI. And that requires enabling everybody, including business, in a central place, accelerating that time to deliver AI projects from months down to days, and then governing the life cycles of all those AI projects. And it probably won't surprise you to discover that the platform that gives you all of that is Dataiku. And we help by unifying those teams together, bringing business, IT, allowing them to collaborate and work together and deploy and manage AI projects, everybody bringing their own talents to the table. And also allow you to upskill those business analysts and experts with visual tools that allow them to work with AI models, dashboards, applications, allow them to reuse modules, build on a canvas together and take advantage of accelerators. We work quite a lot with Snowflake on industry solutions. These are turnkey projects for common use cases within particular industries. Again, a great way to accelerate that. And how do you automate development, get production, increase quality and efficiency, deploy projects to production teams in a few easy steps? And finally, putting that governance wrapper around all of this. And that's what Dataiku brings. So when we look at a slide like the one we've got up here, we have all our users across the top there. Some of them working in no code, some of them working in high code, like our Snowpark that we're going to talk about a little bit later. And it's that full end-to-end. Again, I'm going to focus on MLOps as my demo in a few minutes, but we do full end-to-end all the way from data acquisition, data discovery, exploration, feature engineering, building a model, or perhaps just a pipeline, building a dashboard, could be any of these, through to the full MLOps that we can talk about a little bit later, and AI governance at the end. And all of this built on top of your tech stack that you currently have, regardless of what that is. So again, you've made an investment in Snowflake. We will allow you to utilize the capabilities that Snowflake bring, the infinite storage, the near infinite compute capabilities at Snowpark, all the other amazing capabilities they bring, marketplace and so forth. You can utilize them direct from the single place that is Dataiku. And again, if you're on a transformation strategy, currently you have a kind of disparate, changeable tech stack there. You're using a lot of legacy, maybe on-prem data storage systems as you slowly migrate everything to Snowflake rather. You can get value from Dataiku today with that full stack. And as you go on that migration journey to full Snowflake or similar or some kind of mix, we will support you every step of that way and allow you to get value there. All right, a little bit of bigging ourselves up here. We're double data science partner of the year. That was, I was going to say last year now. It's 2023, of course, now. So 2022 and 2021, and hopefully we'll again in 2023. And the reason we do that is because we have deep integration. We work very closely with R&D teams, work closely together with Snowflake. So again, if you see something new coming out, again, Snowpark was the big thing a couple of years ago. And then, of course, the one we're going to talk about today, Snowpark for Python. Anything like this, high memory warehouses, all of these kinds of things, we integrate and we work with that to enable you to get the very best and the latest from Snowflake. So first and foremost, very, very simple access to the data and compute. And then the more kind of esoteric, the more fine-edged capabilities on top of that as well. So we work very closely with them. And again, that's why we're Double Data Science Partner of the Year. And again, it's I mentioned this a little bit earlier, industry use cases, capabilities, solution competencies, as we have on the slide here, the ability to have a turnkey standard use case approach that allows companies to get that accelerator and get going quicker. And just thinking about it in that full kind of, data science lifecycle, all the way from kind of data discovery, visualization and understanding the data, feature and engineering transformation, training a model, deploying the model, that full MLOps lifecycle. Again, Dataiku covers that entire lifecycle in a single platform. And at every stage, we allow you to integrate with your underlying Snowflake architecture. So again, we're not going to store the data on Dataiku. We're not going to execute the data. We're going to take advantage of the tech stack that you have, the execution engines, the storage, whatever that landscape looks like now, will allow you to utilize that. And with Snowflake specifically, will allow you easy access around the security parameters you put in place to the Snowflake data and the Snowflake execute and Snowpark as well. And we even build in things like, Java UDFs as well into the platform as well to take advantage of Snowpark for Java to allow you to use those UDFs kind of seamlessly within the Dataiku platform. All right, final piece before we talk about our use case and then dive into the product itself. I know you've probably had enough of slides already. So as an architecture, what we're going to look at today is what's called the design node. That's where those teams come together, collaborate, you discover data, transform it, reuse, create. You then have a deploy node where you can push out to an automation node. So that's where you can schedule pipelines, monitor, batch scoring and so forth. And then you have your real-time API for deployment of scalable models there, as endpoints. So again, we're going to use a credit card example here. So maybe you wish to push that out to an API, to do real-time scoring of, kind of transaction information as it comes in and take an action based on that. And surrounding all of that is a govern node where you have a registry and workflows and approvals for these AI projects. All right, let me talk about that MLOps use case here. Let me just build this slide out for you, and then we'll talk about this. So we're going to be working on credit card fraud. I buy something in the supermarket, my transaction is live scored against a predictive model that indicates, whether it's likely to be fraudulent or not. And, maybe it generates some kind of control. So for example, requiring using a PIN, maybe it sends a text message to me. So obviously lots of ROI implications on a use case such as this. And our example company here is rather imaginatively titled Acme Inc. And they've had a couple of issues with regards to data, execute access, reusability, model performances, complexities of controls, and quite often in these cases, the fear of actually breaking it. We can talk about three different people or personas in this story. We've got Jim, Katie, and Helena. So to start off with, we have Jim. He's our business expert. He's an SME that's very familiar with the data, an actual business use case, but he's mostly focused on how revenue is linked to machine learning use cases, knowing when a model's misbehave and can directly hurt the business goals and returns. Next up, we've got Helena. She's the expert data scientist who's really focused on reusing what the data scientists have created, being able to reproduce faster, getting over the pain of making sure that she can build and deploy quickly, all those kind of challenges we talked about earlier. And then finally, we have Katie, ML operator, analytics lead, who sees things from a slightly higher level. Her goal is to control and monitor models at scale across the organization and make sure that those are, there aren't any uncontrolled AI, ML use cases out there. So the last piece of the puzzle you really need to know about before we kind of get down to the software is the timeline of these use cases. So the original model was trained in, I think, Q1 2017. And that model has then been put into production each quarter, and we're getting new ground truth data coming in. So think of it that, customers getting their statements, when they inform the credit card company of transactions which are fraudulent, this could be going through Snowpipe, into Snowflake. We get that new quarterly data in. That kicks off an automatic rebuilding and retraining process in Dataiku, and we get to see how it's performing over time and figure out if we need to take actions. So now that you know what's going on, let's put our hat on of our business expert, Jim, and get into Dataiku. So this is Dataiku DSS, which stands for Data Science Studio. And Jim, our business expert at Acme, would have come in here and he would have worked on projects. Again, this is the design node. We spoke a little bit earlier. This is where those teams like Jim and Helena and everyone else come together to work on a project. In our case, it's to build a predictive model. Could be a pipeline, could be a dashboard, could be all of the above. So they'll work together on projects. We'll dive into this one here. And I said a little bit earlier, you have the kind of, this tableau, this visual grammar for data science, and that's what we call our flow. So you read this from left to right. Everything in blue is a data set, something we're reading from or writing to. And as you can see in here, we're mostly working with Snowflake, which is great. So Acme Inc. are on a process of moving all their legacy, their technical stack over to Snowflake. But again, for what currently exists, if that's not within Snowflake, go in the data sets. If they already have existing tech stack there, which isn't in Snowflake currently, maybe they're on the migration path, we make it super easy for them to also access. So Jim has no problem getting hold of data in other places while bringing it in, maybe writing the results down to Snowflake. So everything in blue is dataset. Everything you see in yellow is what's called a visual recipe. So this is a UI, a tool to help those low no-code users work on data, explore it, transform it, build dashboards, and so forth. Everything in orange is the opposite of that. It's the code recipe. It's for people like Helena, the data scientist at Acme, who just want to go down and write some Python code and use their favorite IDE or Jupyter or whatever else. We allow them to do that in this collaborative environment, get all the benefits and things they love, as well as some extra bits, all the while collaborating and potentially making reusable assets as well. So the business doesn't constantly come to them and say, hey, can you just run that again? They can automate those as well very easily in Dataiku. So, and everything in green, I should say. So that's our machine learning. We'll come back to that one a little bit later. So these are in flow zones just for organizing. So again, we have some data preparation, connection, feature engineering, model training, evaluation, and so forth over here in batch scoring. Now, the first thing Jim probably wanted to do when he first built this project was see, is there something else out there? Is there a curated data set, which is going to be perfect for me? The way I always start, and the way I like to start, is to go straight to the catalog. So all those assets that we have, the data sets, the articles, scenarios, notebooks, projects, discussions, etc., are indexed and searchable. Again, it depends on your security that you have for your particular user. You only see what you should, but assuming you have the rights to do that, it's very easy to discover data sets that other users may have created that may be really useful for you. And similarly for everything else, all of the assets. So this is a great place to start. For Jim, so let me just jump back into the flow. For Jim, let's take a look at some of the stuff he's done. So first of all, he's gone and got hold of the data already. He's gone through and found the data he wants. He's pulled it in to Snowflake in this example. And again, because Jim comes from that Excel background, being able to look at tabular data like this is fantastic. And again, Dataiku will work with semi-structured, unstructured data as well, just as well. For our purposes today, we're just going to look at tabular data. Again, get a great idea, can analyze that, can see distributions, start to understand the data a little bit better, look at data quality scores. Again, really, really useful stuff. Build out charts, go in more in depth in statistics, univariate, bivariate analysis, and so forth. Can do all of that, but it's about discovering, understanding that data. And then when it comes to transforming that data, again, we've just got a simple join recipe here, visual recipe. So nice, easy way for Jim as an Excel user or XXL user to come in here. In this case, it looks and says, do you want to do a left join on these particular ones, card ID? But again, you could change that join very easily. You can change the columns, put prefixes on. Again, very simple. And what Dataiku is doing here is providing this visual interface. Under the hood, we generate the actual SQL that's required for this, and then we push that down to Snowflake. So again, when you're looking at data in Dataiku, we're looking at a sample of data. That full data set lives in Snowflake. And when you execute on this, and you choose Snowflake to be your execution engine, as you see here in Database SQL, then you would generate that SQL, we push that down, spin up that virtual warehouse, run that, and write the code to, in this case, a new Snowflake table. So again, we're utilizing that capabilities that we have there through our full integration with Snowflake. The end user just comes in here and it just works, and it's very, very simple. Under the hood, we're using all that investment that the Acme Inc. have made in Snowflake to get the best value from it. All right, just before I step into Helena and what a data scientist might care about, let me just take a look at another recipe here, which is called prepare recipe. So again, something for Jim here, or quite often we'll even find data scientists using these visual recipes as well, because they can be a great accelerator. This has a series of processes. I like to think of this like a toolbox, and think of your toolbox as having a bunch of tools in, what we call processes. And these are to do all kinds of data transformation and exploration tasks. So from as simple as filtering data, and again, you get an explanation here of how to use this particular tool, this processor, very, very easily. Maybe you've got geodata, you want to do some reverse geoencoding, something like that. Maybe you have NLP, or maybe you have some JSONs and things like that. You want to flatten those JSON arrays. Again, there's a tool for every single purpose. And the nice thing here is it will build up a script, which again, if you're coming in after Jim, you want to understand what he's done. This is a really great way to visually understand all the steps that were done on this data transformation task. So let's switch to Helena now, our data scientist at Acme Inc. So she's written some Python code here, and you can use the built-in editor here, but more typically our data scientists will prefer to use, say, a Jupyter Notebook or their own preferred IDE in what we call a code studio. So let's start off with the code studios, and these are isolated environments that developers and data scientists like Helena can craft their code, and they can use JupyterLab, VS Code like we're looking at here, RStudio. But the back-end resources and the security are seamlessly managed by Dataiku's platform. Now this is terrific for Helena because she's heard a lot about how great Snowpark is, and she wants to start working with it, but she's had bad experiences in the past of having to manage all the client code. So having Dataiku manage this, along with all the other benefits it brings for coders, and also having the power of Snowflake and Snowpark, it's a win-win. And again, you can get all the benefits here. If your preferred IDE is Visual Studio here, the linting, the terminals, debugging, again, it can be great for that. It's just the usual code here. Something else that Helena noticed as well when she was doing that is we also have support for Streamlit in Dataiku as well. So again, very important for Snowflake, and Streamlit's really, really interesting. And we provide a really, really easy way for her to start experimenting. And you can see here she's built her first kind of 101 with Uber data here, and she's built all this directly in Dataiku. But for the purposes of this, we're going to switch over. Let's say she prefers to work in a Jupyter Notebook. So here's the Jupyter Notebook for that same code that's working. And rather controversially for Snowpark Day, I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time on the code, because what I want to show you is just how easy it is to start coding and some of the benefits from Dataiku. And there's 101 different examples out there for Snowpark for you to actually try out on Dataiku. So first things in first, this is Jupyter Notebooks, as I said. This is embedded in Dataiku. So again, we'll take care of all that, the security, the back end, just like we talked about there. That's all taken care of. She can just come in here and start coding in her preferred environment. So we've set up a Python environment here with Snowpark in it, and she can just go off. So the actual integration from Dataiku to Snowpark, and therefore Snowflake, is actually very, very simple. You just need to import this package here. Oops, there we go, just on this line here. The DKE Snowpark package, and then we need to instantiate it a little bit further down here. And that's largely it. At that point, you have your instance, you have your connection, your session. At that point, you can just start writing your Snowpark code, and that's exactly what we did here. So the idea here was customer transactions, user information, can we predict fraud for it? So this notebook from Helena is basically to create some feature engineering capabilities around that. Well then, a whistle-top tour of what Helena did. So she defined a data frame here. She started exploring and understanding her data, started using some of the capabilities and standard functions within Snowpark. She's cast here to pandas to start using the Plotly library here. Again, then she starts into the feature engineering and starts doing transformations on the data. And fundamentally, what she's trying to do here is build a series of windowing lagged variables. Did the transaction happen during the day or at nighttime? Did it happen during the weekend or a weekday? And then start to look at that over a 1, 7, 30-day window as well to start to understand the patterns. These can be really powerful features for predictive models in fraud. So some great work here. And again, you may be saying to me, look, Steve, you're rushing through all this. This is Snowpark Day after all. It's all about the code. This code here is freely available on the Snowpark examples GitHub page. So you are more than welcome to download this and play with this yourself. And also at Dataiku at our Academy, which is where you can come to learn all about Dataiku, we have lots of examples as well, code examples to help you understand how to use this within here. So she does the same thing again with terminal IDs as well. So similar kinds of things, understanding changes over time with that, and then creates those features. So at that point, I'm going to jump back to the flow. Back in the flow, let's talk about something called feature stores. Now, in Dataiku, a feature store is a dedicated zone where teams can access and share reference data sets that contain curated features suitable for reuse. So it saves time and increases consistency across projects. Now, for example, Helena just created a series of features for use in our machine learning model to predict fraud. Since those features could be useful for many other applications, Helena can grab this data set, make it shareable. So let's grab the data set. There we go. If we look over here, we can share this. We'll enable quick sharing just to make things simple for now. Share that out. And then we can publish that to the feature store so it can be used in other projects. Now, if I go to the feature store in Dataiku, you'd be able to search and find and see that those features have now been added to the central list of feature groups. And it contains all the data sets that have been specifically marked by the project owners as being high value or quality, and therefore likely good candidates for reuse. So you can browse through the feature groups. We can take a look. We've got stuff here in financial services. Look at the tags. You can understand the schemas, view information about the data freshness, review its context, where it was originally used and so forth. And Helena's features basically are now available here and ready to use in another project. So that avoids that need for duplication and reconstructing the feature engineering pipeline that led up to that data set. So a really, really useful way of sharing that value that Helena's bringing. So let's pop back to our flow a second. Okay, well, in the short amount of time remaining, let me give you the MLOps demo that I promised, or kind of use case. So let's put ourselves back in the shoes of Jim. He was our business expert, and Jim likes to use this dashboard here, and there's lots of things we can do in this dashboard. But today, Jim's focused on the business value tab here. Now, even though Jim might not understand things like, say, a ROC score, he can see that there's missed fraudulent dollars and percent missed fraudulent dollars have both been increasing quarter over quarter. Now, this is going to set some alarm bells ringing in his head. He needs to get some other stakeholders involved to investigate this. So Jim's going to go ahead and ping Katie. Now, that was our MLOps operator or analytics lead who oversees models across the org. Katie is a little less concerned with, let's say, the individual use case in the designer node or the automation nodes. So she's going to head down to Dataiku Govern, and that's that centralized watchtower to help her track model performance over time. It also gives her the context she needs to make decisions by linking those models to govern projects that they're part of and with different, say, risk value ratings and how those roll up to the various business initiatives. Katie's going to go ahead and find her particular governed use case. And she can see that data drift has been increasing while accuracy, precision, and F1 scores have all been decreasing. She can take a deeper look, find useful information, where this project rolls up into, what initiative, sponsors, model documentation, signups, reviewers, all kinds of things like that to help inform her decision making. And she decides that, okay, this is definitely the top of her priority list. Katie's now going to get hold of Helena, one of her data scientists that we spoke about before, and she's going to get her involved. Now, if she hadn't been involved previously in this project, then the automatic documentation that Dataiku creates would be really, really valuable for Helena. As it happens, she's already worked on this particular project, so it's pretty easy for her to start looking directly into the project. She wants to make sure she understands that drift, so she zeroes in on the ground truth pipeline that's being evaluated against the current model to generate the model evaluation store, where she has all these metrics and their context at her fingertips. Again, seeing that the data drift is increasing quite a bit and some of the other metrics decreasing, each one of these lines of data is each quarter is a new ground truth data coming in. But she needs to dive deeper, and her instincts tell her to check out the input data drift to start with. Dataiku makes it really easy for her to evaluate the data we use at train time. We see here that we've got a drift score of 0.88, which indicates drift, and Dataiku does this behind the scenes by training a random classifier model to tell the difference between two data sets. But we can go even deeper. Now let's look field by field, and we can see things like our card age has definitely drifted to the right in the newer data. We have older ages of our card holders in this data than we did at train time. Purchase amount looks like it might have drifted to the left. We can go even deeper than this as well and see how features are mapped by how important they are to the original model, how important they were to the new drift model. We can also look at things like prediction drift, where we can see, for example, that the original data, about 5 in 1,000, were predicted to be fraud, whereas now it's only 1 in 1,000. So this is a good start for Helena. She's got some good information. Now she wants to think about things that she could do to experiment to try and improve the model performance. She could go back to our Snowpark feature engineering, maybe make some new features there, maybe make some changes. She could head to the original visual analysis for this model, make changes, potentially create new sessions, new training experiments with all kinds of different options. She could change things like what features are involved, algorithms, and so on. But for now, because of the high priority of this use case, her instinct is to go ahead and retrain the model on the new data that's come into Snowflake. Now, in the interest of saving a little bit of time here, I've gone ahead and done this already. If I look at my models, we can see a new version of this as well. And right away, we can see that ROC score has hopped up a bit from what we saw in the drift analysis. But of course, we want to do more of a little investigation into this model before we want to put it into production. So there's a lot of great interpretability statistics here. We can understand variable importance. So the ability to do, say, subpopulation analysis to slice and dice by different fields, in this case by card state. Maybe we can see it's actually not doing so well in Utah compared to other states. Maybe something we'd want to investigate before putting this to production. We can even go into the realm of responsible AI and maybe look at things like individual explanations to understand the primary drivers between what's fraud and what's not fraud. And again, all these visualizations can be published to dashboards for other stakeholders to consume. Now Helena, because of the priority again, is feeling pretty good about this model version now, so she's going to go ahead and make this the new active version. But of course, this is still just the design environment. So Helena can publish with our deployer to a new API endpoint. Click on Publish on Deployer, set our version, select API Services, and then find our project. And if she has permission, she can hop over to that deployer, find her use case, and go ahead and with just a single click, choose to deploy the new version. But wait, we've got a warning here. We want to make it really easy to get things into production, but we also want to make sure we follow the right governance framework and have the right checks in place before that's done. Helena is getting a note that says she needs to go back into the governance and follow her organization's frameworks. And that could be a whole bunch of different things. In this case, it might be something as simple as updating the model documentation for the new version. She may actually have to go for her new version that's not in production and do something like request review from the necessary stakeholders so they can sign off and help this move through the stages. Once that's done and she gets the proper permissions, again, Helena can return to the deployer and choose to redeploy. Alright, that, as they say, is a wrap. I think we're almost at time there, so thank you for your attention. Just maybe as a quick summary, I hope that this has been valuable to you and hope you've seen that how Dataiku can help you systematize AI. That is empowering all the people in your organization, low, no, full coders, how it can accelerate that time to deliver projects from months to days, and it provides that governance around it. And specifically in the Snowflake side of things, every single visual recipe that we saw today, we can push down that computation to Snowflake via the virtual warehouses. That data can live in Snowflake. We make it very easy to discover and generate new data that can be stored in Snowflake. And when it comes to the coding side, we've got fantastic features for coders. Use the tools that you're comfortable with. And we make it super, super easy to get started with Snowpark and take care of all that client code infrastructure requirements. And then finally, in our story there at the end with the MLOps, I hope that you've seen that how those three personas there, Jim, Helena, and Katie, could rapidly scale AI as a team. The business SME to the analytics lead to the expert data scientist, all working together to identify when models are degrading, investigating potential solutions, and then rapidly updating models in production, and of course, wrapped up in that safe governance frameworks that I mentioned. So thanks for your attention today. If you need anything else, just reach out.